Genevieve Kumaplay, and I am the founder of My Goal Inc. and Haven International, an organization that supports individuals with intellectual disabilities, both here in the United States and also in Ghana. In Ghana, we have our Haven International Center, and we are so privileged that I have our program director, Jennifer Brock, who leads the program there. And then in the US, I have Jenny Soto, who's our program coordinator. We're here as a resource to all of you who have joined us both live now today. Today is Tuesday, April 7th of April 7th, 2020. And we're extremely grateful to start a series that I themed Ask the Expert. And today I am privileged to really have someone who I hold in high respect because of her commitment to individuals with intellectual disabilities, autism, CP, who has a breadth of experience. She's an occupational therapist by training. Her name is Tosin Adegboyega. Tosin is originally from Nigeria, but I'm here with her here in the US. She goes to church. She and I attend the same church. We serves in our children's ministry and also in our special needs. She's a support for us. And so today I want to invite Tosin to share with us and teach us about occupational therapy and also the value that it has in working with children on the autism spectrum and other intellectual disabilities. So at this point, I'm going to ask for housekeeping duties. What she's going to be doing is that she's going to start. She's asking that we mute our lines. We're going to mute our line, and then also if you have questions, wait to the end. At the end, we will answer your questions. We're also taping this session. We're going to also tape it so that if anybody wants to see later, they can. So I'm actually going to just ask everyone, like I said, if you are in an environment where there's noise, I'm going to mute us because I don't want a scenario where we can't hear well. So I'm just going down and muting as many people as we can. So this way it's clear to us. And if you have questions, you can type it into the screen. And then this way Tosin will be able to really share everything she wants to share. So Tosin, I want to say thank you so much for making time today to really be with our families. Like I said, for the Haven families, we love and appreciate you, and we really, really want to see each one of your children thrive. So this was specially designed for you, but I also invited our families in the United States to join us as well too. So I'm going to release this mic now to Tosin to start.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I just want to thank you, Dr. G. Thank you for the opportunity to share what I do every day. It's really hard to put together what you do every day into a little presentation because it's your everyday life. So if I kind of like lose my track, hopefully I can find it back. I'll try not to keep us here forever. I'll try to keep it concise. I just want to say hi to everybody. Hope you're all staying safe and well. I know a lot of folks are home now, unless you're like a healthcare worker or essential member of the community that needs to be out there. So I just want to say hi to everyone. It's a privilege to be here. I'm Tosin Adegboyega. Don't bother with the last name. It's a little bit challenging to say African names. I'm a mother of 2 kids, 10 and 12, a wife also, but also I've been an occupational therapist for 16 years. It's hard to believe that in a couple of years, it will be 2 decades already. But I have to tell you that I do enjoy what I do. I came to the practice. I was actually heading for physical therapy, and then I ran into a mentor who said, hey, well, why don't you try this profession out? And I tried it, and since then I've been very, very excited about the practice of occupational therapy. I have spent 13 years just with school-age kids. So I've done all different parts of occupational therapy, elderly, acute care, in the hospital, across all lifespan. But for the past 13 years, my focus has been, or domain has been with school age, primarily ages 3 to 11. And I love it. I love it. The other thing I like to share, and I hope I'm not leaving anything out, is that I have other things that I enjoy doing. Yes, I'm an occupational therapy mother and a wife, but there are things that I personally enjoy doing. And it's weird, but it gives me joy. I love to drive around my community. I literally leave my house and I just drive like 10, 15 minutes in my community. It may not make sense to too many people, but I just enjoy the process. I don't like walking. It's the driving component of it. Just seeing where I live and just appreciating it. I also enjoy challenging tasks. So if somebody presents before me something that gets me thinking, something that requires that I research, I really jump at it. So I'm that kind of person. Midnight, I'm up till 3 a.m. reading an article, trying to figure out why a child is doing what, why the behavior continues to exist, or what have people done to address such behaviors. So those are the kind of things I put and invest my time in. And the reason why I do that is because I enjoy the process. And the reason why, that brings me to the topic of occupational therapy. And occupational therapy as a discipline focuses on what people enjoy. So if I'm going to share a slide with you. 1 minute. I'm going to share the slide with you. Where do we go? All right, can we all see that?
No, not yet.
Not yet, okay. Is there something I have to click
Yeah,
on?
just do share screen.
Oh, I have to, okay, good. I knew I was forgetting something. Go back to Zoom. So I'm not quite familiar with this, so I'm learning thanks to Dr. G, who is helping me navigate my way through this. I'm gonna share. You can see it now.
No, I can't.
No, not yet?
Yeah, no, just say, click on the share screen button.
All right, let's try that again.
Yeah. If not, I can share my screen. Okay, perfect. There you go.
Oh, you can see now?
Yes.
All right, one success. Okay, good. So occupational therapy is deemed as a science. It's the science that enables people to live the life to the fullest potential, meaning that OTs help you live your life, to live your best life. That's the best way to put it. But there's actually a science to what OT is. There's a process. Let me come back so I can see everybody. Hold on. I am coming back so I can see everybody. Uh-oh. 1 minute. Dr. G, how do I get back? I think I lost my way. Stop sharing. Okay, good. I'm back. So occupational therapy is the science that focuses on.
Hold on, we can't see your screen though.
You can't see me anymore?
I can see you, but I can't see your share screen.
You want me to share it again?
Yeah, because we can't see your screen. We can't see the PowerPoint. Yeah. So you might have to, there you go.
Okay.
Wait. You're sharing, you're not sharing the PowerPoint. The view we're seeing is your email. So go back, there you go. So I think you might have to present, and then at the end we can pull back and you can see everybody.
All right.
Okay.
All right,
So,
okay.
but you have to share your screen again. You got out. So you know what I'm gonna do? Let me
see. The technology was gonna be my challenge.
No, that's fine. You know what I'm going to do? Let me see if I can share my screen in a minute so that then you just tell me advance.
Okay.
Let's see, where am I? Let me make sure I have the PowerPoint first because I had it on there. Go ahead and just start talking.
Okay, good. So today, I'm going to try to share with you briefly what occupational therapy is. We're also going to try to explain how do OTs do what they do. Like, we just don't do things. How do we come to the decision we make, and what do we put into the whole picture when it comes to helping a child, in this case, because we're looking at school-age children, So like I said, OT is the science that looks at how can we live our best life. Like personally, I told you guys that I enjoy driving. I enjoy challenging things, just looking at information and just sitting with it and trying to make sense of it. That is what OTs do. OT, we come into a context and we look at the individual and say, what is this individual about? What do they enjoy? What occupies their time? And hence the word occupation. What occupies this person's time and what do they consider meaningful? It may not be meaningful to you, but to the individual, it gives them pleasure in some shape or form, and it occupies their time. So that is the role of an OT. And we do that through a process called task analysis. We literally look at what, I want to narrow it to a child so we're not lost. So in the case of our conversation here, we're looking at school-age children. And we have identified as school-age children, what occupies a child's time is play and school.
Do you see my screen?
What?
Do you see my screen?
I see now. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So tell me when you want me to move. Advance.
Okay. So if you want to just go up to the slide before this one. Thank you. So life is made up of occupation and meaningful everyday activities. In the case of the population we're looking at children, and children, what occupies their time is play and school. And so as an OT, we come in to see and figure out what is making the child not to succeed at playing, or what is getting in the way of this child being able to succeed in school. And once we're able to identify it, it comes down to, does the child needs a skill? All right, we could go down to the next slide, Dr. G. All right, good. So when we identify what is it that's limiting the child, we ask ourselves the question, all right, in what areas are this? Is it in terms of cognition? Does the child need some kind of brain gym? I don't know how many of us are familiar with that terminology. Do we need some activities that will help the child be better able to decode things such that they can remember? Do we have to work on maybe their muscle to make them stronger so that they can be able to, if it's to jump or to be able to ride or to be able to, just put books in their bag, whatever the child is falling apart in, such that they cannot succeed at the task. That is the role of the OT. And like I said, it's either a child requires a skill to be trained, or do we adapt the environment in which the child is. Sometimes you don't have to adapt the environment, you modify the task. So that is the role of an OT. And then we also look at the support. We look at the support system, the teacher, the family, the caregiver. Do we have to educate the caregiver or the teacher how to interact with this child such that the child is able to better learn or respond to the demands that is being put on the child? So just for the sake of our conversation, I'm just gonna pull one or two of my caseload, the students I've worked with over the years, and just kind of like piggyback on what they've done and how they did it. So for the purpose of this conversation, I'd like to touch on a little girl that I had. I still have the child. Name is Crystal. The child comes into OT at kindergarten, and the child is spent a whole year learning how to draw a line down. For those of us that are not familiar with drawing line down, we know lines make letters, letters make words, and of course words make reading and every other thing that the child has to deal with. So when typically a child comes into therapy, those are pretty much the fundamental things that we're looking at to see, all right, is this child able to make a line? Is the child able to stay on task? In a school setting, for the case of Crystal that I mentioned, who is one of my students, she came in every time we attempt to do any tabletop activity, drawing a line down, After a couple of minutes, she looks away. There are times that she just kicks it off. Come to find out, after a series of observation by the OT, classroom teacher, and just everyone that supports the child, we were able to find out that Crystal actually cannot see. When you put a line in front of her, she sees like 10 lines because she had some issues with her vision. So the doctor had to take care of the physiological stuff in order for the OT to be able to work with other things. I bring that up because, like I said, in skill retraining, you want to train the person to get good at something that they have, but maybe it's not so perfect. In the case of Crystal, her vision, she had a vision problem that was limiting her. And every time the OT presented activities or the teacher did, she deemed, in turn, children are wired that way. She deemed the activity too hard. And because it's too hard, the child gets frustrated and it shows up as a behavior. The kid kicks the paper, the pen, whatever it is, kicks it away. She gets a meltdown. But it wasn't that the kid didn't want to do it. It was because the kid did not have what it takes to do it. As a result, it shows up as behavior. So, like I said, a child has play and a child has school. However, these things take place within a context, and that context could be the home, playground, time with family. So besides the fact that the OT has to identify what's limiting this child, the OT also has to figure out, how do I work with this child within the context in which activity is presented? And for the purpose of our conversation today, Dr. J had mentioned to me with COVID-19, we all find ourselves homebound, and what the OTs did before, and the teachers and all the support system the child has in school, everything they did now lies with the parent. And now you're kind of lost or overwhelmed as to, okay, how do I do this? So our conversation today, if I can quickly get through this, will create an opportunity for you to ask questions, and hopefully I can provide you some answers to that. So the tile 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13, I'm going to fly through that, because if I have to talk on every one of them, it's going to take a long time. But I'm just going to sort of bullet it, and just, if anything pops up in terms of the clients that I've seen, I will weigh in and share some good example. So, let's take of home versus school. So now child is home. Typically in school, at school, they have to make sure they know how to put their things away in their cubby. They have to make sure that when they walk in the hallways, that they are able to negotiate the hallway without bumping into another child, just keeping that space, being mindful and aware of their body in relation to the environment. Those are classroom tasks. Now come to the home, just morning routine. Your child being able to know that it can get their toothbrush, put the toothpaste on it, or just being able to come to the table and get the items they need for breakfast, or depending on what age the child is. The environment puts a task. It's a social expectation that a child will rise at a given age and meet these demands. And now there is a breakdown. Those breakdowns calls for to analyze the demands. What are we trying to get this child to do? And what is limiting that child? What strategies were put in place by the occupational therapist or the support system to help this child to succeed? And I think that's what we're about to talk about today. You can move down to the next slide. Classroom behaviors. Okay. Well, in the regular classroom, child has to maintain a certain level of arousal level, meaning being in the moment. So it's called ready to learn. Child has to be ready to learn, be able to avoid our distraction, meaning that if somebody is talking by the door, is this child able to not pay attention to that information and focus on the information that is being presented? Or even another classroom member, one of the kids in the classroom, if they are doing something that is distracting, or they're trying to get a book out of their backpack, that the child will be able to filter out that, because they're considered nonsense information, that the brain will be able to tune in to what is relevant and ignore the irrelevant one. Within the home setting, situations can present itself. I'm going to try to pick one of my kids that I've seen actually today. Case in point, I went in today for a therapy session. I actually had my plan, what I was going to do with the kid. And I do know that kids have their own agenda. And I'm sure you all know that too. I was going to do 4 activities. We always start off with a movement, but not always. Even though I said that, I would always check with the kid, how was your night? Just checking on the sleep routine. I would ask, oh, what did you have for breakfast? Just get a gist of, do we have just carbs? Or did we get a little protein in there for brain power? I would ask, if the mom is there, or any member of the family, the parent. I would say, how was this morning? But that kind of process is for me to gather information about this child and get a picture of, do we start off with an activity that's going to increase the child's alertness, or do I go to my second plan of tabletop activity and then wrap it up with more movement activity? Because if a child is ready to learn, why do I want to get the kid overly excited? And a case in point today, that I went and I said, hey, do you want us to do our routine activity? The kid is like, yes. And I'm like, okay. Do you want to remind me a few things that we normally do, like just gross motor movement, reaching through all the planes, just head disposition, so that the kid can just get the little bit of movement and just. But he said he wanted to do that, but his body wasn't ready for that. So once I got the ball out, I said, we're gonna toss the ball in the air. You're gonna catch it 10 times. It took a dice. It was a dice, one of those large dice. He took it from the mom. He just flunk it into the air. I'm like, whoa. I know that kind of response. I expected it, so I was better prepared for it. What was the distraction in the environment? Mom had attempted to go upstairs just to go get something. And that was just enough for this kid, that he was like, where are you going, mommy? Where are you going, mommy? We couldn't get him to come back to the table, attend to the planned activity. And so immediately, as an occupational therapist, I actually had to look at the environment. First, I put the task on him. I said, Tyler, what do you want to do? And he couldn't come up with the answer. I mean, as an OT, I could sit there and keep asking, what do you want to do? But I know enough not to do that. So immediately I said, you know what, Tyler, and I took permission from the parent. I said, can I give you a tour of my house? I needed to switch it up. As an OT, you have to be quick. You have to be a quick thinker. On your foot, you have to have a plan B. You have to know how to adapt. You can't be rigid. Concrete thinkers cannot be OTs. You have to be very flexible, dynamic, easy, like adaptable, just able to move in any direction, different direction, just because you have an expected outcome. And your goal is not to get the end result. That's not the goal of OT. OTs we're interested in the process of being. So if a child needs 10 steps to get to stuff, if the kid will succeed in 1 or 2 out of 10, we take pleasure in that. Yes, eventually our goal will be to get to that. If we do get to it, thumbs up. If we don't, we actually look at the process of becoming as opposed to the end result. So back to my Tyler, we were able to take a tour of my house, and we ended up coming back to the table and say, hey, Tyler, all right, now we're going to try to remember a few things that you saw while I gave you the tour. And so he settled down, and then I said, you're going to list 10 things. He didn't want to write. So he said, okay, I'm going to draw. I said, good. And guess what I'm going to do? When you draw, I'm going to guess what you've drawn. And so now he draws, he shows it to me right up front. I try to guess what it is, and then I write it down. We got through that activity pretty good. We were able to get to our ultimate goal was to do shoelacing. The prep was movement activity, but we ended up making it into more of a cognitive memory stuff, which was able to draw in his attention. he became more empowered as a student. He felt more in control because typically that's his issue. He wants to know that he's in control as opposed to he's being told what to do. So I was able to flip that. We got through the prep. We were able to do the shoelacing. It was a good session. I bring that up just so that you know that there are distractions in your home that may be competing with your child's attention. And the ability to look, step away. Yes, you do have a plan. You want your child to sit down and eat. You want them to complete the work from the teacher. Whatever it is, I get it. But at some point, you're going to have to step back and look at the whole picture. What needs to leave? Do I have to modify the environment? Do I have to pull some things away? Let me start another example. I'm sorry that I'm spending so much time on the environment because the environment actually plays a big part to whether your child is going to succeed or not. My other student, Crystal, had called for a coloring activity with the mom. Well, not coloring per se. It was the OT session. She was working on coloring within a given parameters, making sure that she doesn't go outside of the line. We started off with movement as usual. She got through the movement. When she got to the table, of course, mom presents the paper, draws the circle. All right, now, mom gets the crayon and presents it to Crystal, but Crystal grabs 5 crayons, well, which is very typical of her. And don't forget, that's the same kid that the doctor had to work on the vision in order for her to be able to see one item instead of 10 lines, which she's doing pretty much well with right now. She grabs a crayon, colors every color, like just moving from one crayon to the other crayon. And mom goes, you know, Crystal, color yellow, color yellow. And I'm like, wait a minute. All right, mom, let's take the crayon. Let's ask Crystal, what color do you want? We gave her a choice. She said, I want yellow and I want purple. Great, take the crayon. Mom, can you take the crayon, put it away, out of the context? You know, mom kind of like put it to the side. She starts to color again. Mind you, she had learned frustration from very early on when she had the vision problem. So this is a learned behavior that she has learned something called a maladaptive behavior. It is a behavior she's learned to cope, given her I don't want to say disability, but a limitation. When she was limited, being able to see or filter out what the true image you're showing her is, she will throw things and just scatter it. Now she's frustrated again. She takes the old crayon, dumps it all over the floor, and here's mom. You don't listen. You know, she's using her voice. But just that we know, for the kind of kids that we deal with, when a child is upset, think about yourself. When you're upset, does word work for you? If somebody's saying something to you when you're upset, you're not processing. The one thing you don't want to hear is words. Our kids are not different from that. When they're upset, they're not listening. They're not listening. So the one thing you want to take out of that context is words. Just spare me words. Maybe quiet. Give me pictures. Anything but words. And eventually, when we did this session that I was telling you, when I came to the table another day to do the activity, the first thing I said to mom, let the crayon disappear. Paper, we cut out the shapes that she had to color, we cut it out instead of giving her a whole full paper. So in other words, we limited what she can work with. We didn't give her paper so she could just color all over the place. We cut out the shapes. We presented the shape to her. She was given the crayon that she chose, and the bucket, the bin of crayons was not around. All right, context. In some cases, your children will not be able to filter out every other thing that's going on in the home, and you have to step back, look and see what needs to go so that this child can be successful. All right, let's go to the other one. All right, moving coordinated manner through hallways. I think I did mention that before. Within the school setting, we're looking at, can the kids negotiate always? Can they open the doors? Do they have enough muscle strength to push down, push through? As a lot of doors in schools are, fire doors, right? So those are weighted doors. But at the same time, can this kid negotiate and just move through space? Opening the backpack. When the kid opens the backpack, the teacher says, take out the green book. Does the kid get so overwhelmed that cannot even filter what's green. How does that apply to our home setting? Again, too many visuals. Let's see how we can work with that. Um, just functional things within your home, I would say. All right, biggest sensory. I know everybody likes the sensory component. I like to spend a little more time with the sensory because the sensory is a very tricky one. And I always give this as an example. Think of sensory as your craving. You're craving ice cream. And somebody comes and says, I just prepared a meal for you. You are not hungry. That's one thing we know. You are not hungry. You just have a craving for a particular texture or a particular smell or taste. I want to cite an example of a student I once worked with, Ariana. So kid comes in, kindergarten. When she walks through the hallway, she stomps, like just stomping, stomping, stomping. Kid puts herself on the floor. I kid you not, when you walk from the classroom to the OT gym, kid puts herself on the floor 15 times. That was like the baseline, you know. Kid needs 3 adults to walk the hallway. One, they have to put somebody in front, somebody holds this hand, somebody holds the other hand. Otherwise, she runs away or she puts herself on the floor. And, you know, everybody said, oh, just give out the weighted vest. Oh, you know, the body sock. I don't know if how many of us knows that, but it's one of those things that it gives you the input that you need to your muscle and joints. All right. After a careful look at Ariana, we found out that Ariana actually is dysregulated on more of a vestibular. It's movement dysregulation. Yes, she seeks input by putting herself on the floor. She scratches the floor, and you can almost think that she's more of a tactile. Tactile is the skin. We all know the skin is the largest organ in the body. So it was very easy for anyone looking at Ariana to say, oh, she's a seeker. She's seeking information with her hands and everything. Well, what we come to find out is she's seeking with her hands. However, a gentle oscillating movement, just rocking her forward, backward, was just good enough to put her in sync and regulate it. We did try the weighted vest. Not that I believed in it. It is good for some kids if the dysregulation is in the skin, if it's in tactile, but if the dysregulation is vestibular, you cannot meet a craving of ice cream by making a big bowl of cassava, I don't know, Gary or something, or cereal. You can't meet that craving that way. So let's think of the sensory stuff as a craving. We need to know what the craving is in order to meet. Otherwise, you're going to provide an input. It's going to do something. It just is not going to address the issue. After a little while, the child gets out of it. So with sensory, you know, some kids, they seek information or input from the environment because they're low registration, meaning that it takes a while for that information to get to the brain. So if you put ice on yourself and you can tolerate the ice to stay on your skin for, I want to say 15 seconds, a kid with a low registration might have that ice there for maybe a minute or two before the kid actually says, wait a minute, oh, it's cold, or withdraws from the sensation. That is the information takes so long to travel, and that is the kind of kid you would see with a potty training. The kid will be wet, soak, and like literally draining before they even perceive that I'm wet. So trying to do a toilet training program or potty whatever with a child with a low registration, you're going to need the central nervous system to mature instead of just wasting precious time. I throw that out there because it is very important that we get an OT or someone who has more of a clinical background in terms of observation to get where is the dysregulation. Is this person low registration, high registration, or they have a mix of it? In some cases, some kids may be low registration in their skin, but not vestibular wise. So when you take that kind of kid and you give them movement and you make it so vigorous and you know, of course, the kid is overly excited because you give way too much than they needed, or you give too little such that you don't even see the impact. So it's very important as the occupational therapist or the parent that you take time to observe the child, see where they thrive, see where they thrive. You know, when does this child have the maximum attention? What does this child do that I sometimes get that child in the moment, in sync with you and the activity? We could go to the next one. Oh, just that I mentioned, keep it on the visual, Dr. G. With the sensory regulation, my little kid that I was talking about, Ariana, we come to find out that when we actually give vestibular input, very low doses of predictable movement, she actually says words. I actually had to record her because one day she was, you know, in that moment, and she said, "I want daddy." That was a kid deemed nonverbal. And as we give those low doses of movement, words start to come out. So just to mention again that it is very important that we get what our kids need, as we step back, observe, and we want to support them. Visual motor component. Okay, again, like I said, the reason why we're going over these things is just that you know that in some cases the kid need a skill trainer. We need to train them on that skill. If they need more muscle strength in order to get work done, if they need more visual scanning activity, a case in point, a child with Down syndrome. We know with Down syndrome, typically the muscles are low tone. The muscles of the eyes in particular, they're not so strong. So we have the oscillating eye movement. So a kid like that will definitely by third grade, see, a lot of folks don't see the issue as big until the kid gets to third grade. And then they wonder, like, what's going on? Kid can't read. Well, you may have been able to cite the letter A, B, C, but by the time you get to third grade, your child needs the whole system working together in terms of, visual attention, that the child will not fatigue as they read through those words. With a child with Down syndrome, with the muscle really not where it needs to be and no kind of visual training whatsoever, that's a kid that will dislike reading. You just say, oh, the kid doesn't like to read. No, it's not that the kid doesn't like to read. It's the fact that the kid does not have what it takes to get work done. In this case, the work is reading and sustained reading and attention. So this kind of stuff falls under visual motor, being able to know what is needed. Is a skill? Do we have to adapt the environment, or do we have to modify the task so the kid succeeds at something that is either expected, social expectation, or a process that they enjoy doing, but there's a break because it's just too hard. All right, let's keep going. Next, social emotion, of course, managing expression, emotion, turn taking, impulse control, ability to remain within a group setting and sustain your attention, and just, it's hard for even typically developing kids, turn taking, like seriously. Everybody feels like they're the center of everything. So those kind of things are things that we need to work on, that the child will know that we will put in activities in place to have the kid learn. Okay, so as occupational therapists, like I told you, our focus is occupation. Occupation as defined by what the kids enjoys and occupies their time. It has to be enjoyable, it has to be meaningful, and it must be something that occupies the child's time. How do we do this? We do not do this alone. There's no way we could. We collaborate with the whole team, and we're talking about the parent, the teachers, just whoever is in the kids' corner in terms of support. Our goal is to interview, just tell me your story. Tell me who the person of Crystal is. And even more so, if we can observe the child within that environment, which the demands are being put on, so we can know what needs to be manipulated for success. So that's direct service. So we do come in on that level whereby we assess the child, we deem the child to need skilled OT intervention, meaning that the caregivers can do this because they're not trained to do that. So that's our role. Consultation, it means that, you know what, let me just give you a few tips. Case in point with Crystal, I was able to tell mom, just step away, minimize what you're giving to her. Make sure that you provide her with, let her choose. Do you want green? Do you want red? Don't give her multiple because she'll step all over you. Just ask her, give her choices. Put other things away, restrict what's presented before her. And once she succeeds, the behavior is going to dissipate. And that's exactly what happened, that she was provided with those consultations. Tyler, the other kid I said, very much the mom is on board. She understands that Tyler really likes to run the show. Not bad. It can be bad in some situation. We do know, if, particularly with Tyler, I'll tell you, if you want him to write from the board, he will write, he will choose not to write. He might say, no, I just want to do letters. And so typically I will go when I say, you know what, I'm going to write. And I start to write, but I intentionally write the wrong thing. He does not, is a perfectionist. He likes things to be done perfectly. So when I go in and I write the wrong thing, he says, no, Miss Tosin, no, Miss Tosin, it's supposed to be Y. And I say, okay, why don't you show me? And that way I get him, he's able to go in, he does it. Well, look, I just tricked you. It does it. Even though he had said, I only want to do numbers. So mom is aware that you just gotta finagle your way through with Tyler. Can't do the power stroke, it doesn't work. And then training, of course. We train the whole support system, how to go about doing this. With sensory in particular, if a child needs brushing because, you know, maybe I'll go back to my girl Ariana. Yes, Ariana's dysregulation was vestibular, but she was also the kid that her body was all over the place. Meaning, like, I kid you not, like jello body. So brushing was appropriate because we wanted her to have that body floor, just the connection, just knowing our position in space. So the brushing did address the whole floppy body. It did not address the seeking part. So we have to go vestibular. So in those cases, we have to train the parent what's low dose vestibular movement, what is brushing, how do we brush a child? So those kind of things we do with the parents. Okay. Universal design, like I said, there's no one size fit all. Times without number, I've had, I don't know if anyone is familiar with the teachers helpers. When I come into the classroom, they're like, oh, that kid needs a weighted vest. A weighted vest is what that kid needs. I'm like, oh, why do you think so? Oh, we used that for one kid before and he worked perfectly well. Well, that is not how we come to the decision we make. We don't just slam on a weighted vest. Oh, the child needs a pencil grass, one of those things you put on pencil. No, we look at the web space. That's the web space. We want to see if the web space is collapsing. Is it open? We want to look at the position of the wrist. We want to see if there's a dissociation in movement. There are other things. That's why I say it's a science. You're looking at a system, how the system works. And when we see the breakdown of the system, we try to put that back, either by, like I said, skill training, adapting, or modifying. Whatever we need to do just to get back the system together so that we can get the right output. That's so it's not a one size fit all. I think that's it. What's the next one? So again, I think I touched on this one. The OT observes. We observe as many settings: classroom, hallway, lunchroom. For folks at home, this is a good opportunity if you have that service. I know for the folks in Ghana, that might not be a case, but with folks in the United States, have your OT look at the child within the given context. How do they behave with that? Yes, the kid behaves certain way in school, but now the kid is home. Just have the therapist observe the kid within the home, and they might be able to pick out what's missing and what needs to be put together. We do that through observation. First is a screen. I have to say that it's not listed there, but if you read through, it's a screen when an occupational therapist observes only. It's a screen. We're trying to see, does this child need a skilled intervention, or can we just let go with just consultation, giving strategies to the caregiver? If we see that there are underlying issues that needs more of a professional approach to address, then comes the evaluation and the recommendation for services. But pretty much that's it. Treatment planning. So I threw this in. So this slide itself, I'm not going to take credit for it. It was an adapted slide. The treatment planning component of it is what I put in, given that when they told us here in the US that we have to do teletherapy, therapy from home, never done one before. I've heard about it. I did try to do it way back in time when I was trying anything and everything, but I didn't follow through. It got me to start thinking, okay, how are we going to make this work in a home setting? It's easy in my therapy room because I have all the cool toys there. But now that the kids are within the context of the home, and I cannot manipulate so much. I'm very limited. I'm here, they're on the other side. I wish I could throw some toys I have at home, but that's not possible. It got me to think about, what do I want to say to parents? What do I want to share with parents? And if you just go to the next slide. So I came up with a 30-minute session, tentative model for a scheduled session. So I meet with my kids 30 minutes for their scheduled time. I did anticipate that when I come in, if the child is dysregulated, we're gonna have to do some movement activity or sensory activity just to pull the child together. I figured that activity will roll into more, play downtime. If you go down, we'll see those options. Well, we could go. I'll come to that. So a few of the things that I came up with was, and this is from reading so many other things that other people have done, is that, if you have a little one, and the kid struggles with balance, and in OT, they're used to going on all this swing and this ball. Well, you may not have a ball at home. Just throw in your pillows. They give enough displacement, head displacement, balance displacement, so the kid still gets that movement going, crawling under the dining table, dining chair. We did this with a little kid, one of my little kid, and it was the little sister helping out. And that's one of the strategies I like to say. If you have a little one at home, don't just make it about Crystal. Don't do that. Pulling the sibling in. I say, you know what, you guys are gonna play chase. He's gonna chase you around the house, crawling under the table. The kid did not want to do it because it's one of those oppositional things where the kid says, I want to do it. But I say, Joanna, just crawl around the table. And as soon as the sister started crawling, he just joined the sister, and we were able to do a whole lot of things. Climbing over kitchen chairs. Be careful with that, but that's a way to set up an obstacle course. Like if you want a child to do 3 sets of activity before they come and attend to a given task, you could put the chairs all together. You could say, you know what, you're going to go around the chair 3 times, 4 times, whatever it is. Just set up a sequence of activity depending on the kid's attention. If kid doesn't have so much attention, just try to limit it to 2, maybe two steps. If the kid has more attention that they can easily get bored out of it, well, have the pillowcase, the couch pillows on the floor, put the dining table chairs together, kid walks on the pillows, goes around the dining table chair, crawls under the table. Again, sequence. One of the things we see that's a breakdown for the kids that, our kids, is the motor planning component, which is also called sequencing. The child breaks down because they don't know how to initiate a task. They don't know how to carry on with a task. And they don't know how to wrap up, meaning putting a closure to a task. So a child may have one or the other, or 2 and not have. So whatever part of that activity the child is breaking down, just modify it. If it's too large, obviously the kid is gonna forget. So keep it simple, keep it, make it fit. The just right challenge for that child. I put going under the tunnel, animal walk, scrap walk, wheelbarrow. You pick up the kid's leg and just, get the kid around within, spinning around, vestibular. That's a key activity. Just make sure the kid doesn't fall to hurt themselves. Being on their tummy. A lot of our kids, they're weak, muscle tone, posture, very big on posture, I tell you. When I come into a classroom or see a child, the first thing I need to look is this child sitting right? All the muscles of the trunk, everything, are they supporting this child in a way the kid is good to learn? And if that's compromised in any shape or form, we want to do that. If a child is low tone, or weak in their muscle, if you have them sit on a stable, on a chair, a wooden chair for such a long time, the muscle is going to fatigue. So this might not be the kind of kid you want to put on a chair. You want to put the kid on their belly to do work so that we don't have to deal with the fatigue that comes into, because once I'm tired, I'm disconnected. This is over. So we want to make sure that's not what's happening to our kid. Squeezes, hugs, all those things are helpful. Catching a ball, that's coming to midline. What we see with our kids is that there is no right left brain integration, and this is so common amongst our kids. The kid from a very young age has learned ways to make their way through life without having the left side of the brain cross over. And a lot of parents don't see that. I'll give you a good example. When the kid is little, think about childhood. When kids were little, kid comes, start to crawl. That is diagonal pattern. The kids are making right, left brain neural connections. Some of our kids just pull to stand. Parents are excited because they're like, woo, my kid is trying to walk already at 5 months. Sounds all nice and dandy, but the honest truth is the kid is skipping a physiological and neural path that's going to be needed for neural connections, such that later it's challenging. When the kids put weight on their hands, it prepares them for fine motor tasks. It gives proximal shoulder stabilization. You need your shoulder to be in good stability for you to have good fine motor activity. When the shoulder is not intact, stable, you're not going to have a good fine motor proficiency, if that's what to put it. So I just throw those things in, that neural connection with the squeezing and getting hugs, whatever, they show up later in life, or when the kids go to school, when it comes to doing a scissor task. Okay, let's cut some things. Kid does not know how to manipulate or maneuver things. Some kids avoid washing hands, not because they don't want to wash hands, it's because they don't have what it takes to bring hand into midline. They have to be cued, prompted to come into midline. So these kind of activities that I listed here, they would help the child to integrate their right, left brain, which is needed for higher level functioning. I will go to the next one. And then of course, a lot of what you see is more function based. A lot of folks like to think of occupational therapists as the hand therapist. A lot of our focus is on the hands, not necessarily. But a few activities that I listed here will be squeezing water out of the sponge, spray bottle, clips, gold pins, punching holes, scissors, or just papers. I tell you, this activity, crumbling paper, I want to say it's like the top activity I use across all settings, because I could go a lot of way. A few of my kids that just put up the behavior stuff, I say, you know what, why don't we draw? And then they draw. And then I say, why don't this, okay, good example. I had one of my kids write the letters. I said, how many, write numbers 1 to 10. So the parent provided the kid with 10 papers, wrote numbers 1 to 10. I said, okay, we're gonna squeeze it up. And when we squeeze it, I said, you're gonna guess a number. And we're gonna pick 3 balls, crumbled paper. Try to figure out one, I guess I'm gonna pick number 6. So the kid picks 3 balls, we try to open it. Oh, it's not it, oh my God. Then he tries the second one. And when the kid eventually picks the number they guessed, they're super excited. And then we move on and we say, okay, let's cut up the number. See, we went from writing the number, crumbling it up, getting the finger exercises that we need just for other things. And then we went to cognitive work, whereby the kid has to guess what the number is. If the kid is nonverbal, I can show the number, the letter, number. I keep moving all over with the number, letter stuff. And then we end up cutting it, sustained attention, manipulating the scissors, bringing hand into midline. So much stuff that can go into crumbling a paper or ripping a paper, just working this fingers. Writing on prone, I think we talked about that, for our low tone, weak muscle, and fatigue. And then just changing the plane of writing. I like to talk a little bit about this one because some of our kids, I want to say a lot of our kids, they are out here. They're high alert. once in a while you see a kid that is zoned in, that is here, and you have to kind of prep them to come into midline and be just balanced. But for the majority of the kids that we see, they are overly excited, just posturing out with their eyes. And when you continue to do activity on the table, that is not the kid's strength. The kid has a hard time coming into midline anyway. If you want success, you're better off coming into their world, which is up here. Maybe I could see you. Maybe I could see what you want me to do if you come within my view, instead of me trying to get to your view, which is down here. So changing the plane of an information can actually enable success. Okay. Okay, like I said, with my parents, I love the ones whereby the kid doesn't agree with me. I really, really do. Because then I step away and I try to see what's going on. I'm like a scientist or something, trying to get to a research or something. I try to look, why is this child having a breakdown, a meltdown? And eventually when I'm able to get it, when we wrap up the session, I sit with the mom and I say, what do you like about the activity? You know, a lot of kids I see are nonverbal. So I say, what do you like about the activity? And then the mom will wait and say, oh, I saw the way you did that. I saw the way you move things around. Oh, the kid did the wall push-ups instead of on the floor, because when we try to get the kid on the floor, kid said, nope, I'm not going on the floor. But we moved it to the wall for the wall push-ups. The kid did well. When we try to write letters on the paper, the kid said no. But when we moved the kid to the chalkboard or the whiteboard that is vertically standing, the kid was more agreeable. So the parents are able to exchange and tell me what they saw that worked, which they really never saw or never considered. And then we get to talk about what they can do at home to facilitate the process. I want to say that parents have been so much appreciative. I know COVID is bad, it's kept all of us out of our routine and we're homebound, but parents have come to verbalize that, wow, it's like a wow moment for them as to, wow, I never thought of it that way. Even with the one I told you guys with midline crossing, I said to the parent, when you want to present food to the child does not initiate that much, pretty zero initiation. I said, when you want to present a snack, when it's snack time, prompt the left hand, meaning that cue the left hand not to move. Cue the left hand not to move. Present the snack diagonally. The kid has to reach to get that snack, crossing the diagonal pattern. And the mom is like, I don't think she'll be making this up, but she's like, I have seen more initiation on the part of my child since I've been intentional about how I relate with the child. So I think I'm pretty much done. I've been talking for such a long time. Do we have any other thing there? I think that's it. Oh yeah, that resource. Oh, all right. Doctor, do you mind clicking on that for me? I click on the annoying birdie, the title. If you click on it, okay. All right, we're gonna go to it's the photos. If you go to photos.
Go to where?
Photos on the left side, under videos.
Under videos.
Photos, under videos. It's on the left side of the screen.
Oh, here.
Yeah, right there. Right there.
Should I do the photos?
Yes. And then we're gonna scroll down. I particularly like this this website. This is not a website, it's a Facebook page. We'll keep going down. Let's keep going down. When I see the picture, I'll tell you to click on it. Keep going. And right there where the kid is. All right. And then we're just going to go. Yeah, you could click on it. Did it? Okay, we have to scroll down. It didn't come up. Because there's a slide there. When you click on the kid, it should come up with a slide, and we could see a lot of activities that low cost, using household materials, and then you can just go flip through it. In Ghana, look, getting the cardboard, cutting it out, having the kid go through it. Just, there's a whole lot you could do with this. I know.
Wow.
I know. just in-house stuff, and it's so much stuff you can be working with. You don't need those fancy toys, Fisher Price. No, 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 no. Just household stuff that can go a long way to engage your child. Look at that. Look at that.
Wow.
Awesome. That's why I particularly like this website. I know there are other websites, but I feel like this is so low budgeted.
Photo, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's it. That's it. I think we're up to this question part.
Yes.
If anybody has a question, something they want to ask me.
Okay, let me unmute everybody. Sorry, let me try to mute. Okay, there you go. All right. All right. Anybody have a question? You can type it in, or you can unmute yourself.
Even if it's just a kid you're dealing with, or
Well, before you go on, I want to thank you so much. This was very helpful. I even learned a lot just listening to you, just in terms of how you cross, the whole skipping of a physiological step as an impact. I wanted to address the issue of sensory for a minute, because for some of our families, this might be a little bit of a new concept to them. So, you use the word, hold on a minute, I muted you by mistake. Let me unmute you. You use the word vestibular, these are terminologies that for a lot of the families, they don't know what that means. So globally, tell us, individuals have the areas of challenges in terms of dysregulation. Use that slide that you talked about. Okay. Can you explain that a little bit more for us?
So, growing up as a child, they tell us that we have very early on, our elementary school years, they tell us we have 5 senses, but there are other senses and that's the vestibular. Within the vestibular, we also have the tactile, proprioceptive. So vestibular is more in your ears, within the ears. There are 3 bones there. I'm not gonna bore you with big words, but those pieces of bones, they help you regulate the displacement of your head. When you displace the head, it kind of gives you a feedback of where you are in space relative to you. So it gives you a position in space. It helps you pick up information. When you know where you are in space, in your given environment, it kind of gives a feedback to your body how you're supposed to respond. I think that's the best way I could explain it, that you don't only have 5 senses. You have other senses, the vestibular, which are the 3 bones located within your ears. Children at a very young age, they access that sensation or sensory processing pathway from movement in space, how they go through space. So we would see situations where kids don't move that much, that they might have some kind of vestibular compromise, not being able to orient their sensation as it relates to their position relative to other people, their position relative to the environment, or just knowing where they are, or just the sense of their self, body-mind connection. Sometimes, so that's the vestibular. There's the proprioceptive, big word again. That is more, it has to do more with your muscle and your joint. It is the way your muscle speaks to your joint to give you a sense of where you are relative to your environment, and even just you, body-mind connection.
Okay, so what I'm hearing you say is that you can have, within the 5 senses, there could be some dysregulation in those senses. So how can you give us example for each of the senses? What happens with our kids that's different from other children?
Okay, so I'm just gonna pick from my own very kids that I see. So one of the kids that I see, I think I'm gonna bring back Ariana because she's one of those. I've had so many anyway. And Ariana is a kid, like I said, and she is low registration, meaning that it takes a while for information to get to her, for her to make a meaningful interpretation of what society or the environment. So the environment puts a demand on you, either through touch, through noise, hearing, vision. And for her, that information takes a longer process to get to where it's supposed to be interpreted and giving it the true meaning of what she's expecting. In our own case, low registration for her meant that I want to say, I'm trying to look for a classic example. When she's walking down the hallway, that she puts herself on the floor. She puts herself on the floor because movement through space, that part of it is a learned behavior, but it didn't become a learned behavior until it was more of a sensory component that she puts us. So she's not able to interpret information coming to her from the environment. As a result, she has no idea of what is expected of her in terms of, Ariana, I'm going to walk from my class to OT. She puts herself on the floor because that's being on the floor. She gets the input from the floor to a muscle, to a joint to be regulated, but she's still not regulated. Like I gave an example of your craving. They give you food. Yes, Ariana puts herself on the floor because that is the way her body, she thinks she can regulate herself. So she continues to scratch the floor, put herself on the floor, just flawed behavior, but she's still not regulated. Teacher deems that as kid has maladaptive behavior of being on the floor. She kicks, she does, she scratches the floor, she spits on the floor. But what really regulates Ariana is movement. Just holding her by the hand and just giving her that gentle forward, backward movement is good enough to settle her and to get those, the vestibular component that I talked about, which is in the ears, to kind of give her the craving that she needs, that she doesn't have to scratch the floor. I don't know if that answers your question as to the dysregulation for Ariana is in movement. It is not in the skin. But that movement that she actually requires is slow movement, not a fast one. Because with that slow movement, she gets the just right craving. The craving is met and she's good. As opposed to you're craving ice cream and somebody provides you with a banana. They say, it'll fill you up. It'll fill you up for the moment. Yeah, I'm filled, but I still crave to have ice cream. I don't know if that really connects it for you.
No, it does. It does, because I know that oftentimes as parents, we are wanting to know why this child is not doing what we want them to do, and rather they're doing something else, right? And you use the example of dropping themselves on the floor, and you're thinking, why don't you just be quiet? But what I'm hearing you say is that they're dropping themselves on the floor because that's what makes them feel comfortable enough for them to now attend to what you're asking them to. But we're not expecting them to do that. So your role as the OT, working with a parent, and that for the parents that are in Ghana, you're hearing that what we'll now need to do is pay attention to what makes the child or individual feel comfortable. And so when we now figure that out, when they are starting to act in some way, we can now make sure that we provide what they need in that manner. Is that a good way to explain it?
It is. And also to even interject the process. All right, if Ariana is going to put herself on the floor, okay, what if I just, as Ariana walks down the hallway of the school or moving from room to room at home, if I just have Ariana move her head side to side, and we just kind of like, hey, Ariana, how are you? How are you too? See, she gets the vestibule and she doesn't have to put herself on the floor. She's doing what's available to compensate for the internal need but the need is, so she's trying to meet a need. Every children are like, they're wired that way. Some of them will actually get the sensation that they want. They will go towards what they need to get regulated. But in the case of Ariana, she wasn't going to do that. Somebody had to bring it to her or help her learn what regulates her, or even the parent. So now she walks the hallway independently. She doesn't need three adults, one to stand in front in case she elopes, or two, lunchtime, or one person to hold the left hand, right hand, and she's solid. She is a solid kid. So you have all these adults all over her. But if we understand that we can just have Ariana move from side to side, or just sing along as we go through the hallway, which is what we do anyway now, she's able to get through the hallway, zero incident of putting herself on the floor, zero. And independently walking the hallway without an adult holding on to her. She's 5. Nobody should be holding her hand in the hallway. Maybe on the street outside, but not on the hallway. And she's able to do that independently. So,
right. So there was a question that somebody asked privately, and it said, I can't get my child to pay attention. What should I do?
All right, like I said, it's not a one size fits all. We would have to get more information on what's limiting the child. What does the environment look like? What is the task that is being presented to the child? And why is this child having a breakdown? I could name a million things that can get your kid to attend. Oh, modulate the light, or keep the kid in a less distracted environment. What if the kid just needs to be on their tummy? Maybe I'm not paying attention because I'm fatigued. I'm tired. When I sit on that hard surface, or do we have to change and give the kid more of something that moves around? So I could throw a million ways for your child to pay attention. But if people want to reach out to me and just have a conversation, there is a lot to look at. Like I said, it's a system. You have to look at where the system is breaking down and see does the child already have something inside? Is it an inside out approach, or it's an outside in approach? We need to figure that out before we give those answers to what's going to help.
Okay, great. Does anybody else have any questions? You can type it in. If you don't want to say it out loud, you can do it privately to Tosin, or you can even text it here to me and I'll ask the question for you. So while you do that, and you can also unmute yourself if you want to ask the question. I know we're a little bit over our time.
Tosin, I know, I spoke for so long, Dr. G.
No, it was perfect. It was great. I loved it. I mean, we're learning a lot. Do we agree that we've learned something today? Maybe just me. Okay. But I wanted you to talk a little bit about the potty training part. I think that was really, really insightful for me. I'll have to be. I've been on this journey for a long time, but I never really understood that this was the reason. Can you talk a little bit about, and go a little slower and talk about why it takes a bit of time for potty training to occur in our population?
All right. So what I see a lot of times is the low registration. I tell you, whereby the children or the kids, they're 5, 6, 9, and they're still wearing pull-ups. What I typically see, and I tell parents is, well, let's find out. So let's find out your routine. Obviously, at that age, it shouldn't be about routine anymore. The older the kids get, I don't think it's about, are you giving too much water at night? Or I don't think it's about that anymore. It's more, a case in point I actually have right now. Our kid is 8 years old. We have deemed the kid low registration, meaning it takes so long for the child to sense any sensation, not to talk of going to the bathroom. By the time the kid senses that sensation, they already wet their pull-ups already. And one of the things we see with that is, like my low registration kid, I typically will bring ice. I tell you, I would bring ice once I see the kid and the parent had mentioned, even before the parents mentioned potty training, I would always, very early on when I do my screen, I want to know if the kid is low registration. If I see any sensory concern, I will put ice on the kid's skin, time how long it took for the kid to withdraw from it. See that? And I also know what's typical. What's typical. I can also do a test of my or another kid, see how long it took for them to withdraw. Kids that typically stay so long to withdraw, that's a low registration care, typically.
So is the low registration as the same as low tone?
No, low
Okay.
tone is the muscle.
Okay.
It's the muscle power. Your tone is your tone. It's genetic. You can't change it.
Okay.
So the only thing you can do with a tone is you can build endurance.
Okay. Okay. Because that was a question we just got, is that what kind of activities can we do with a child that has low tone?
Low tone. You definitely more on an adaptive measure. Just know that you're doing your workouts. You're constantly having the kid working on muscle strength, but not the tone, because like I said, you can't change the tone of it's neurological. Well, it's the neural component of the muscle. It's the wiring of the muscle. You can't change that. But what you can do is when it comes to doing activity that puts demand on the muscle. So a good example would be a sitting activity, is to break it up. Break up that activity. If all the kids are doing the activity for 10 minutes, maybe the person can do it, the child can do it for 5 minutes, take a break and come back to it. In terms of reading capacity, if you've identified like a case of kid with a Down syndrome, we can actually make sure that they don't read volume. We break up our reading. You keep a kid with Down syndrome to read, and somehow they lost their page, and before you know it, they're tired, and their body language is telling you, I'm all done with this activity. Break up the activity. Your tone is your tone. You just have to adapt whatever it is, whether it's a visual task or is it a hand or
right.
even
So this one was on a hand. It was a hand.
Yeah, so if it's handwriting, give the kid a break. Give the kid a break. If it's a volume, the kid has to write volume, give the kid a break. Typically, tone pairs itself up with muscle strength. So we have a way of testing to see if a child has weak strength. And, a good example would be when you bend the child's fingers, the joints pop up. See that? If the knuckles pop up, that's a low tone right there.
Okay, so what kind of exercises can you do with that?
You can do weight bearing. You can weight bear on the shoulder, on the arms, wherever the weakness is. Some people may have a low tone proximally and not distally.
What does that mean, please, English?
So I know he's like, don't speak English. I may have tone in my arms and fingers, but I may not have tone in my lower body. So I may have more stability in my lower body. And upper body, I'm a jello. You know what I say? Tell that kind of kid to do jumping jacks. They're like, they're all over the place. In that case, you just know that you have to adapt the activity to the body part. So like riding activity, make sure that the kid's shoulder, the upper body is supported on the table. You know what I'm talking about? You pull the child supported on the table with their arms. Instead of a typical person can ride like this. When you have low muscle tone, you're already putting the muscle to work.
Right.
By not supporting. But if the upper body is rested on the table, it's supported, and then the kid can put more energy to doing what you're asking them to do than putting more energy into supporting the part that's not supported.
Got it.
So like you said, so being supporting those distal or proximal extremities to do what you want them to do, and breaking up the activity will be for muscle tone.
Okay, I see. So I'm hearing that OT, you're doing a lot of exercises. Really, way to describe it.
You got to do it. It's the way to work on attention and pull the kid in.
Okay. All right. Wow, you've given us a lot of food today. I can't say thank you enough. Does anybody else have any questions for Tosin? We definitely have to bring you back. I mean, like, there's so many.
Even if we want to do like a case study kind of, I think that would be great.
Okay.
Because and then in that situation, you don't have to tell your story. You just put into a case study format and say, I don't know. I keep going to my girl Crystal because I love her. Crystal is a 5-year-old kid that presents with so. Mom is having challenges in this area. Caregivers also struggle with this. This is what we know. You know, those kind of things we can brainstorm and say, okay, all right, how is she doing with this? How is she doing with that?
Right.
Very big, and I know we're out of time. I always do the whole body questioning. I say, look, how is the child sleeping? Okay, if there's a disruption in sleep and the kid is not getting the adequate sleep they need, they cannot have enough attention to sustain any given activity. I say, how does your child eat? A lot of parents say, oh, my child eats very well. And I'm like, how? It's not that I trust that they eat very well, but how the process of eating, do they move their food around? Do they, what rechewing? You can lateralize a foot with open mouth posture. You're not chewing, you're not diagonally moving your food around. And we know one thing with therapy, that, see this? Oral motor maturity is responsible for proximal maturity. If a child gets stuck here, oral motor wise, the kid gets stuck all over the body.
Wow.
We know that.
Wow.
So that's why we need the speech to move the process along for us, so that it can begin to generalize to the body. We know that. That's a proven research.
All right, so you talked about the face. See, now you have me hooked, right? You talked about the face, talked about the head. What else do we need to know? Right, parents?
So we know sleep is key.
Okay.
We know nutrition is key. Like I said, how the child eats, not how much they eat.
Okay.
And looking at texture and how they maneuver that food through their mouth. And I know you know this already. What the child is eating.
Yes.
We want to know, is there anything in that food that is toxic to that child? Yep. We want to know if there are certain things that is causing overload on the CNS. And there are ways to know this, but I think that's a whole different topic we want to go into. Those are the key things. If parents are able to, we can get the check off list on these things. It gives us a better picture of what we're working with. Yeah, it does.
Yeah, so I mean, what I love is the fact that you recognize the value of sleep, the value of diet and all those things, and which is what at Haven we always talk about to the parents, is that this is a whole integrative process of understanding that it's not just about ABA or, behavioral. It's not just only about, okay, you know what, I need speech. It's really understanding that it's a complex whole body system issue, and we need to understand that we need to integrate all the different pieces to it. And a good therapist understands that, and one of the things I value about you is your openness and flexibility to understanding that. And you and I have even talked about rapid prompting method as one of the tools that people can use. So I'm really excited that you're supporting our team and wanting to give families information. I think that's been a huge help. And yes, definitely we'll take you up on the suggestion of being able to have each of our families where we can do some kind of private one-on-one and just do an assessment of what's going on with each child. So then we know, okay, they are having these problems because they have low tone, or because, they may have these other issues going on.
Yes.
Which will help us to be able to better direct our training and teaching to some of these kids.
Yeah. And I think a way to wrap this up is just to let you know that in terms of what I find very successful throughout the course of my journey as an OT is that from the time I meet a child, the theory of the parents or the caregiver's theory of disability goes a long way to help how far they're going to go in therapy. I typically need the parent to be on board in terms of being able to be open and, just open as to how they see this. Parents see things differently from the way therapists see it. And how they see it goes a long way for me to know how this process can better benefit the child. It does. It does.
Excellent. Was there anybody with a question before we say a very big... Yes, go ahead.
I have something to say, Dr. G. So can you please bring her in one of our meetings after the pandemic on Sunday? Yes.
Of course. Tosin is a woman of many brilliant hats. This hat, most people, even in our church, don't even know she has. But it's really powerful. And so, yes, you're absolutely right. We will bring her up. And for those of you in Ghana, Adiranke is asking about, we have a live support group meetings and we do trainings like this on a monthly basis. But we wanted to be able to do something like that similar for folks, Haven families in Ghana as well too. So yes, because there's so many things that we can learn. I value OT so highly because, you know, in my son's training program, they don't have OTs. They don't think OTs are needed. It's all dressing from a behavioral standpoint. But I'm teaching them stuff on how to adapt to where Nicholas is in terms of his journey. So I value truly what Tosin has shared today. It's really powerful, and I know many of us will learn a lot from it. I know many of us are shy, and you think your questions may not be very you want to share it, but please, I would love to hear from you on our WhatsApp groups. Please ask your questions. We will be happy to take it back to Tosin. Any other questions before we round up your few minutes, and we're going to wrap up?
I have a quick question.
Yes.
So this is more towards a family member that I know. They just recently started OT, and then all of this craziness happened, and now they're stuck in the house. Is this going to be a huge setback now because they can't physically be there in their therapist's office, and they're trying to do it at home, but obviously it's not as well as it is when it's in the office. So I'm just wondering, what kind of setback will this really bring on? The child's 4. So
yeah, we do anticipate with the kind of children that we see. Number one, children in general, they do better with routine. If you have a well-structured routine for a child, it's kind of like their little blanket. They know what to expect, when to expect it, and they thrive in routine. So even more so with our kids with special needs, this all stay at home, it's, you know, really, really, really changed everything for them. So we do anticipate that by the time they come back, it's more like a relearning process for them. So that is why actually in the state of New York, this is so encouraged that we check up on parents at least once a week to kind of check in and say, how is it going? What have you been doing to support? Because that little support is going to make a big, big, big difference in terms of whether the kid regresses a lot or mildly. So like from what you said, if they didn't get started, and if they did get started and now they're not able to do the things the child was supposed to do, they can anticipate that it might be a regression. A way to bridge that is to talk to the OT and say, you know, what can I do on my part? Like low doses of activities just to maintain whatever skill the child has had, so that the child wouldn't lose that skill. Yeah, okay.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. You're muted, Dr. G.
Well, that will help if I unmute myself. Earlier I was yelling at my mother, so I had to mute myself because there was so much noise in the background. I didn't want it in the video. Any other questions from anybody? Tosin put her email on here on the chat. Is Tosin_Oluwu. Is that?
Oluwu. You tried, Dr. G.
I tried. Oluwu. It's TOSIN_OLOWU@yahoo.com. And you saw that Facebook link that she shared. We'll make sure that we include that in there. We've recorded this presentation, so we're gonna save it and send it to everybody so you can go back and listen to it, because she shared a lot of great information, and we'll be having her back. I know she's excited. I'm excited.
That's the OT in me, though. I have two. I have Tosin and I have the OT in me. So.
Well, we love the OT in you. Like, we love her. She's great. We love the other Tosin too. But we can do some activities and tasks and stuff like that. How do we set up a sensory room in your house? We can do a whole bunch of stuff with you. So I'm super excited. You just brought yourself. If you know me well, you know that if you volunteer, I will never let you get away from me. So I want to say thank you so much. God bless you. I know everyone here. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands.
Woohoo! How do we do it? Do you have a system? You have a system to this?
Come on, you guys, show her the Ghana way of clapping your hands.
Okay, I'm ready.
Right? You're happy.
You keep clapping?
If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. All right. Yay. All right, so Tosin will be connecting before the end of the month. This was great. I'm so in awe of what you did. It's really, really powerful. We really appreciate you. We learned a lot.
Pleasure.
And we definitely, everyone, please send your feedback. I will send a link for a survey in terms of to give her feedback. I'm sure there's some things that she wants to know what she did and what you like and what you want more of. So we'll send that to you guys so you guys can respond so that we can do more of this. It's all about learning and it's all about supporting each other. So we want to say thank you, everyone, and have a fantastic day. Tonight on 7 p.m., I'm going to be doing my empowerment series on just words of encouragement, more along these lines. So if you can join me for that, and for the Haven family, I'll be connecting with you about doing one specifically for you within a time frame that works for your time. So we want to say thank you, everyone, for joining us, and have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye now.
Take care. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
You too.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh my goodness, I'm gonna feed my kids.